Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. So as I sit here, about 30 odd minutes or so removed from watching the Warcraft movie for the very first time, my thoughts actually drift back towards the build-up of the release of this film. You see, Warcraft The Beginning, as it's called here in the UK, was always putting itself up against it. Number one, there has never been a successful video game to cinema release. I'm sorry folks, that's just a simple fact. Number two, some of the marketing for this film has been sketchy to say the least. Some pretty diabolical posters were created, and also some of the trailers were really hit and miss indeed. So much so that even Duncan Jones himself took to Twitter to voice his confusion at why certain music was being used in the trailers when they weren't using, in his eyes, the amazing score for the film. And when the director takes to Twitter to have a bit of a complaint, who are we to argue? And third and finally, just as the movie was releasing in some of the European markets, a couple of really scathing reviews came out. Admittedly, I think one of them was a comedy piece from The Guardian, because reading it, I couldn't stop laughing. But I guess that could also be some really poor journalism too. But that said, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, even though it's only had 21 critical reviews, it's currently standing at a dreadful 19% score. So, bad journalism or not, if it's a turkey, it's a turkey, right? So, is this a really bad film? And do I have to tell you exactly why it's a bad film? Or where do I stand on the subject? Well, let's fast forward back to right now, shall we? 30 odd minutes or so removed from seeing Warcraft the movie. No agendas here. I've been awfully critical of the Warcraft game in recent times, and in my blinds, rightly so. I don't mind dishing it out for the movie as well. But I don't have to. You see, I tell you what, airs and graces aside, I fucking loved it. I absolutely fucking loved this movie. In actual fact, from start to finish, I had a ridiculous grin on my face, which was quite inappropriate at times because there's some pretty heartfelt moments in it, but I really saw what Duncan Jones was trying to create here, and I was fully on board with him, because all the worries that I had about these badly cut trailers, all the characters that I was really concerned about because they seem to be too quippy and too shallow, the way again that the trailers have been cut together, all those fears were complete and utterly alleviated. I thought this was not just an enjoyable film, I actually thought this was a great film. And I've got to say this because I can't keep this to myself. I watched the Bellular Gaming review of this, and when Michael said that he thought this film was better than Civil War, I'm sorry Michael, I burst out laughing. And do you know what? I've got egg on my face because I absolutely agree. I got more out of this film fun-wise, plot-wise, enjoyment-wise, and also character invested-wise in this film than I did in Civil War, which makes this my favourite film of the year so far. Deadpool. I am so sorry. So, is it because I'm a World of Warcraft fan and I'm just fanboying over everything I've seen? Well, look, if you've spent any time in my channel whatsoever, you'll understand I call a spade a spade. I've been highly critical of the game in recent times, and I think rightfully so. And it was just wonderful to step away from all that politicking of developers and consumerism and all that kind of jazz, and just take 2 hours to sit down and enjoy, and really enjoy, the universe which I love so dearly. And not just that, to be thoroughly invested in it. There were some real surprise packages for me. I thought that Ben Schetzner, if I've mispronounced your surname, do forgive. I thought in the trailers he looked diabolical as Khadgar, and he was my biggest concern coming into this film. But his performance as the young mage was phenomenal, and I legitimately mean phenomenal. I totally bought into his story. I totally bought where he was going, what he was trying to achieve. He wasn't used too lightly. There were some fun moments with him, but it wasn't slapstick and stupid. It all made sense and all became part of the plan. Although I have never seen an episode of Vikings, and some people might just lose the fucking plot now I've said that, this was the first time that I'd seen Travis Fimmel in action, and I 100% bought him as the leader of the King's army. I thought he seemed loyal, respectful, but at the same time strong enough to question the king, and also definitely fierce enough and strong enough to lead the Stormwind armies. In actual fact, I am struggling to think of anyone that I could really be critical of in the cast. If I was to have some sort of criticism, it would be that I really wanted some of them to have more airtime. I think Ruth Negga as the Queen, she's a phenomenal actress and was poorly used. She could have been used a lot more. And when she was on screen, you were fully focused. Dominic Cooper, maybe he should have dropped the British accent and tried just to be a little bit more normal. I think his performance suffered a wee bit from trying to keep that accent up, but still, I thought he was a very good King Lane Rin. Toby Kebbell, though, to me, was the standout star of the show as Gul'dan, and in actual fact, it seems quite hilarious to say this out loud, that his CGI Gul'dan and Anna Calvin's CGI Draka had possibly, to me, the best on-screen relationship I have seen in cinema for a long, long time. Not only did these two actors have amazing chemistry, but their marriage, their love for each other really came through. And every time Toby Kebbell as Gul'dan was on screen, and also when he interacted with Robert Kaczynski as Ogrim Doomhammer, those two bounced off each other so well. And this is the reason why I have this smile on my face. I was just immersed from the start to the end, fully immersed in this plot, fully immersed in this Azerothian universe that Duncan Jones had created, and that, to me, is exactly what you want as a director. Even characters which didn't get a lot of screen time really shone when they were there, and that's a testament to their acting abilities. Blackhand, played by Clancy Brown. Daniel Wu as Gul'dan absolutely shined. Callum Keith Rennie, who didn't have too much going on, was an amazing Morose, and I was really hoping that we're going to see a little bit more of him, which very nicely segments into Ben Foster's Medivh. And I think I was really emotionally invested in Medivh's story and how cleverly crafted it was. Another character who I had seen in trailers that I was worried was going to be very wooden, very stoic, very boring, but no, he has great depth of character in the movie, and well played Ben Foster. Now, the reason why I've left Paula Patton's Garona to last is this character has been the one which I would say has had the most criticism levied towards it. And it's criticism which I can see from one side of the spectrum, but on the other side of the spectrum, I actually think it's been played very cleverly indeed. You see, when the orcs talk in the human language, when we're watching them on screen, they're not. They're actually talking in Orcish. And then when the two forces meet, they can't understand each other. Garona acts very much as a conduit for these two. So when she speaks to the Alliance side, the Stormwind side, it's not quite the Alliance yet. When she speaks to the Stormwind side, she has a very broken English. And then when she speaks to the Horde side, you'll notice that her English seems to be better because she's talking in full orcish. I think that was very cleverly orchestrated. Not only this nonsense about barely understanding her through the prosthetics, is that utter and mitigated nonsense. Storyline wise and plot wise, I think the film flowed very well indeed. There wasn't any moments where I felt as if there was boring downtime or I got lost. Maybe because I am sort of well up in my Warcraft lore that I could understand what was being said and where people were going and what was going on. And yes, there were a couple of slightly confusing moments, but moments which seemed to still fit within the film and still fit within the universe. They didn't feel out of place. In actual fact, maybe in a second film and a third film, they'll start to make a wee bit more sense. And CGI-wise, well, it was brilliant. It really was. The CGI was a lot better than I expected. There were a few occasions with the humans where it looked a little bit ropey from time to time, but we are talking serious bits of nitpicking here. The orcs looked unbelievable, and I mean unbelievable. They really did. They shined. Every single nuance and movement that they did was very cleverly constructed, and this of course is what enabled me to be so believably invested in Gul'dan and Draka's relationship. And I was so impressed at the spell effects in this movie. I really was. Whether it be Khadgar trying to craft and put a spell together, or Medivh doing something weird and wonderful, or even Gul'dan sucking the soul out of somebody. It was a terrifying thing to behold on screen. You yourself felt as if your life force was being drained away at that moment in time. It was so brilliantly done. The spell effects, perfect. So all this naysaying about this film and all this sort of knocking down of the movie before it's even had any sort of light of day, especially over on the US side where a lot of the criticism seems to be coming from, just as a film, I found it ridiculously enjoyable. Just as a piece of cinema, I found it to be thoroughly entertaining. And I think that you should absolutely 100% go and see it. And that's just as the layperson. If you're a Warcraft fan, I think you're going to absolutely adore it. Duncan Jones, seriously mate, I tip my hat to you. I think you've taken a great universe with amazing characters and lore, and you have translated that into an astonishingly fun, fast, frantic, heartbreaking, emotional story. And I really thank you from the bottom of my Warcraft fandom heart for that. If you head on over now to IMDb, after nearly 15,000 reviews, not 21, it's currently sitting at 8.1 out of 10, and that to me is a far better indication of the quality of this movie than the hog rot score that it's currently got on Rotten Tomatoes. And for the people that want all the spoilerific stuff, don't worry, I'll still be doing my video with Grant where we'll be going into the movie in a lot more depth, what we thought about certain characters, plot lines, stories, etc, etc. That'll be coming out pretty soon indeed. But I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links, they're in the description down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.